5 lights, and away we go. I think everybody got a decent start there.
That's an insane start from Koushik. Exactly what he would have wanted. Oh, RB Ferraro, he just sneaked onto the inside and he has to P2. Eccentric sending down the inside on Oxygen, and Oxygen is coming back alongside, putting his wheels, and he's side by side going around the outside. And I think he's got the move done. Yes, he has got the move. Oh, still there side by side, but it's got the inside line. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the round 5 stream of IRC Tier 2021. It's another week and it's another round, and this week we are coming from USA, the circuit of the Americas, and I'll be broadcasting the action today, and joining me is SimplyYT, who is doing this round with doing this stream with me for like the last 4 rounds, and this is the 5th time we've been together. So Simply, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fine, Deepak. How are you?
Yep, it's great. And I think this is a good start to the weekend. So we're going to be starting the Friday night with I mean, this circuit can be a bit weird, but still it can provide some good racing action. So why not? Let's have a look at the track map, and I mean the track video and the Hotlap.
Sure. So, Circuit of the Americas, 5.5 kilometers long with 20 turns, 2 DRS zones. Lots of overtaking action that will happen down into turn 12 because of the long straight. Why not? Let's go on to the track video.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, Texas, as we're joined by RB Ferraro, who's going to take us on board a lap through the circuit. Heading to turn 1, make sure your car's on the right-hand side, braking just before the black box on the right. The car gets light here, so make sure you're extremely careful on throttle and get a great exit down to the rundown of turn 2. Onto turn 3, 4, 5, and 6, very reminiscent of the Suzuka S's as you're gliding from apex to apex. Make sure you keep your minimum speed high and use the momentum to channel through into turn 7, 8, and 9, which is an uphill section, so the car gets very light. The balance of the car shifts from rear to the forward. And into turn 11, braking at 75 meters. We saw the drivers taking a wider apex here to get a better run onto the back straight, which is a primal hot spot for overtaking. Open the DRS over there, and heading into turn 12, you want to be on the right hand side again, using all the curb, braking just before the 100, getting all the apex and a great exit onto turn 13 and 14, a very mechanical section of the track, using the grip from the tires and not the aerodynamical downforce produced by the car. Into turn 14, using the camber of the track to rotate the car onto this beautiful, beautiful section, the triple apex right-hander. Flat out in qualifying, but we will be seeing drivers lift off during the race. Into the last corner, you want to brake just after that little dark patch on the left and make sure you get a great exit, and that completes the lap of the Circuit of the Americas. Thank you.
Right, that was a good representative Hotlap from RB Ferraro. So yeah, what do you think of that lap, Simply?
It was a pretty quick lap from Ferraro, of course, a very skilled driver himself. So it'll be interesting to see if our tier 21 boys can match that lap.
So what is your opinion of this circuit? That's something they usually ask about all circuits, but yeah, what do you think about this circuit?
Personally, I find it very challenging, but also very fun at the same time, because of course the S's that are in sector 1 are of course very tricky, but although of course they're very like wheel player biased. Although most of our drivers over here in Tier 21 aren't on wheels, so I guess they'll all have the same challenge for themselves. While sector 2 is pretty much just a long straight, and very good overtaking opportunities there down into turn 12. With the help of DRS and slipstream. they could have very, very good run out of there to make a move. Because, of course, going into Sector 3, again, I'd say the most technical part of this circuit over there, and one of the most technical parts in the calendar is in COTA Sector 3, where, you're in low speed most of the time, and the corners are very, very challenging, but also very hard on your tires. So it'll be interesting to see what the drivers, what sort of lines they take through there. Perhaps they'll go more towards tire conservation, like, through Sector 3, because that eats up a lot of your tires. Or they could perhaps, go for an even more aggressive sort of strategy to perhaps, get a very good run out of the last corner to make a move in turn 1.
Yeah, what you said is absolutely right. Sector 3 is one of the places that I really like in this track because, it's just one of those places where you can't just be like, you can make a move and be like, okay, the move is done. It offers a lot of avenues for the driver who are making the move want to come back at you. It's a really nice sequence of corners. Like, it just switches the inside to the outside and it just goes around. So it's really nice. And we have an interesting race condition. We're going to see a wet race.
Yeah, so that's gonna add a lot of, I'd say, interesting. Not getting the right word here, but a lot of interesting elements over here into the race, because already this track is very challenging while it's dry. Then adding the wet factor to it is just going to make it, I'd say, worse for the drivers. Although it's going to be pretty, I'd say, challenging for them if they're stuck in the dirty air of other drivers, because as we know with these set of regulations, it's very hard to follow the driver, especially at a circuit like COTA or Circuit of the Americas, as we like to call it. It is very, very challenging to follow drivers already because of, one, tire wear is very high. Two, being stuck in the dirty air does not really help with the tires at all. And if anything, it gives you so much outward that your car, especially going through these SS sections, really wants to push you out of the track and make sure you either understeer or completely lose control of your car. So adding the wet factor to it just means that all of this is doubled. That would just mean a more of a challenge for these drivers. So we'll have to see how the drivers tackle these sort of situations and what lines they come up with.
Yep, what you said is absolutely right. First sector is gonna be full dirty air city because it's just a very fast sequence of corners. And if you're following someone too close, there are two possibilities. One is either you end up going wide because of the understeer, or the guy ahead might be a little bit off the pace, and chances are you go into him or try to avoid him and do some pretty weird stuff that the car might not just agree with. So yeah, it's a very tricky place, like you said. But yeah, wet, it's obviously going to exacerbate the full situation in the first sector. But it's going to be interesting to see, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And coming out of turn 11 as well for that long straight into turn 12, it's very crucial for you to get a very important run out of there. And I'm not doubting any of these drivers, but there could be issues in the wet where these drivers they want to get onto the power as early as possible, because they know that long straight is really going to help them overtake and set up a move into turn 12. So they really would want like a proper run out of there. So they could get very eager onto the throttle and perhaps could just spin with that coming out of turn 11, just again, as I said, too eager on the throttle. So do you think perhaps some of the drivers would be eager to get on throttle there? Perhaps we could see some spins coming out of there.
Yeah, that is always going to happen. The drivers are always pushing to get the best times out of the lap and out of the car. So it's always going to bring up some mistakes. And he's already understeering a bit through that corner. I think he might be going for a bit of a dry setup, I'm not so sure, but there was a lot of understeer through that section over there.
Yeah, I think he's got a more straight line focused setup over here. I mean, of course, realistically, the only straight line he needs is, again, up into turn 1 in this long straight that he's on right now. Because, if you don't have that much, straight line, I'd say over here, because most drivers would, of course, go with like a much higher wing level, something around the 9 or 10 types on the front, and then, somewhere I'd say like, again, somewhere around the same area of like 8 or 9 on the rear. I'd say it's pretty challenging, make sure that, you're not running out of VRS going on those big straights, as well as, you make sure that you have good balance between the corners and the straights, because you do really need the straight line, because if I'm not wrong, you could lose upwards of, 4 or 5 tenths just a lap if you don't have good straight line through those straights. So it is very, very crucial that they find a very good balance. Although it's not going to matter much because it will be raining, but still it is crucial because realistically you only have about, I'd say, 2 or 3 places to make a move, and the big straight again being one of them. Be crucial for them to make sure that they have somewhat of decent straight line as well in the wet, that they could again size up and move into turn 12, or at least follow the driver properly through the big straight so that perhaps they could make a move in sector 3.
Yep. So we do have some times on board. Abhi has put up a 133.3. But yeah, the times are definitely going to be going down as the session progresses. That's around with Darknate, who is out on medium, probably some kind of a banker run, I think. But yeah, it seems to be he's going on mediums.
Yeah, they don't realistically, they don't have, the option to go. I mean, they do have the option to go onto mediums or softs or whatever. But they don't have to shout on them. So the drivers, I think, will be really eager to use up all of their softs or like all of their mediums because the race is going to be wet throughout. So we'll have to see if all the drivers go for more aggressive qualifying where they use up, most of their, sets of tires, because I believe they have 3 sets of softs and then 1 set of medium, so it's a total of 4 set of tires. So we'll see if all the drivers use up all of them, or someone just puts in that 1 lap, perhaps someone like Envy or Ink, so perhaps they put in that 1 lap just with 1 or 2 sets of tires, and they just do a Max Verstappen and they just don't step out of the car at all.
Yep, and you see Envy has gone P2 with a 133.4. That's a bit close onto the top, but I definitely think there's much faster times coming through.
Yeah, definitely track evolution plays out a very big role here. Such a track where, tire wear is actually quite high. So it is very crucial that you try to go as late as possible, while also, of course, during the lap itself not eating up your tires. As, real F1 drivers would say.
And I think that's Mighty Owl. That's almost coming to a stop. I don't know what's going on with this car.
Being way 2 drivers behind. And Deepak, if you don't mind, I'll come back to my point here.
Yep.
As most, even esports drivers, other than even, just real life drivers would say, because, of the high tire wear nature of this circuit, it's very crucial that you don't absolutely use up all of your tire in the first sector or the first 2 sectors, so that you have nothing left for sector 3, because then your tire wear is too high, you're not getting as much grip in a place where you really need that grip. So the drivers will have to manage through sector 1 and 2, perhaps give up a little bit here and there to make sure that they can get as much time as possible in sector 3.
Yeah, that actually is something that's really valid, because sector 3 is a very demanding sector in this particular track. It's very intensive on traction, and you're gonna need all the grip that you can to get through those corners safely, else you're just gonna be looking at a semi-spin or something like that, which is ultimately going to shred your tires even more and make you lose time, and just compounds on top of that. So yeah, that actually makes sense.
Yep. Coming back to the on-track action now, we're on board with Rajesh, who's currently 8 tenths down through Sector 2 from the P2 time, which is Envy right now. He's already on another outlap, so I think Envy is trying to go for that aggressive qualifying strategy. As Rajesh is coming through the very tricky second last corner, so the last corner as well, which is pretty straightforward. And turning on the DRS, he goes across the line, goes P6 with a 134.4. Not a bad lap for a banker lap, I'd say, for him.
Karthik Sub is on his first flyer lap. Gets the apex,
the
pretty good corner.
He looks like he has kept it together. Very good long right-hander as well, sticking all the way to the inside over there, so that's going to be a lot of time gain. And let's see, going through the final corner. It's on power slightly later. DRS is completely eaten up, and he goes across the line, goes provisionally pole on 32.1, which is tenths. Apologies, that's over a second faster than Abhi.
That's more than a second, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, Karthik Sub really putting on that early qualifying pressure on Abhi, Envy, his own teammate as well. So, these drivers will be under a lot of pressure now to, make sure they get in a very good lap here.
Now that, like I said, it's a very huge gap compared to Abhi, who did a 133.3. So this either means that track evolution is too much or Karthik is just way too quick.
I think it's a bit of a mix of both over here, actually, because the track evolution does play out a lot, and also the fact that, of course, Karthik is a very quick driver himself, and not to forget, these are just banker times right now. Like Abhi, Envy, and Karthik just set their banker times, so of course we're going to see like a lot faster times. And looking at the current trend, if Karthik can keep such pace up, and then if Envy and Abhi think such drivers could follow through, I think we could perhaps see a time in the 31s.
41s, yeah, it does look a bit of a stretch, but I wouldn't complete a discount. And it goes P2 with a 132.4. Nice class by the Aston Martin drivers. So go on board Envy, who is on his second flying lap.
Pulled through the second sector by 6.5 tenths.
The 31s are not too far away.
Perhaps no. Guess then a pole lap, my prediction would be a 31.4.
Oh no!
And
You
as
spoke too
Envy
soon.
Envy loses the traction going through the long right-hander. Puts the car in one piece, so he does not, have any damage or something. Although I'm guessing he would pit now and just go on to a newer set of tires because those tires are absolutely dead.
Yep, doesn't really make any. I mean, of course, yes, you're not going to start on those tires, but why do you want to, degrade the performance of very worn tires? Just go on, put a new set of tires and come back.
Definitely, considering there's only about 7 minutes left, it should be enough time for him to go in.
Yep.
Have a bit of look back at what he did. Perhaps, remember what sort of time trial lap he did, because, it could somewhat resemble towards the end of college. He's trying to adapt, and there is someone going off, and that is Mr. Routh, who's retired.
Okay, that's
so the
weird.
second last corner really caught him out. As Abhi does not improve on his last sector.
He has
so
improved. He has improved. He's done a 132.7, but just not enough to challenge the top two boys.
Yeah, Deepak, I said, did not improve the last sector,
my
but
bad.
he definitely has improved. Yeah, no problem. But yeah, still a very good lap from Abhi, I guess. Only 3 turns away from Ming, so with the track evolution again, it's crucial that I point out the track evolution because it is quite high on this track, and let's say some drivers is going to pit in, although I think Envy is coming out right now.
Yep, he's starting his outlap.
He's on an outlap right now, and I think it'd be much better if the drivers would come out like sometime around 2.5 minutes or something.
Yeah,
or
that
do like
will
a
be
decent outlap.
Yeah, like I said, that will
Then
be
set
track
their
evolution.
proper lap. Exactly, because then they could perhaps properly time it as to when they exactly cross the line. The timer runs to 0. There'll be a couple of seconds left. Then of course that puts again a lot of pressure on the drivers itself, as Inder invalidates his lap going through the last corner.
Darknight has gone into P4.
It has gone into the
Took a lap
P4.
time of 132.9, and that's put on to P4. And also Alex was down. He put up his first color lap. He was in 134, and he was in P5 until Darknight. Until Darknight came along and pushed him down.
And Alex has invalidated his lap, so I think he'll again be just pitting and then going for fresher tires later on.
Yep.
Can we look at all of the... Can we have a very, very quick look through the race director so that we can summarize the drivers? Very quick look through the race director. Alright, so Abhi has used 2. And Inder Des has used 2. Uday has used 2. Alex has used 2 as well. So a lot of drivers just setting their lap times on 1 tire. And some of them did a lap on medium. So I guess they have a good opportunity to set a faster time. Although we're on board with Envy right now in the AlphaTauri. Going through first corner, he takes a very, very good first corner. They're coming through into the S's right now. The first chicane over here. He's absolutely banging this lap, I'm not gonna lie, Deepak.
Yep, but let's not speak too soon. We did the last time around and did a mistake. So I just hope he doesn't do a mistake. I'm pretty sure he could easily get the pole if he does a clean and flawless lap.
Definitely, and so far, he's absolutely nailing his apexes. He's absolutely nailing his corners over here. And he's nailed this exit as well. And he is trying to do what the esports drivers do and stick as close to the right as possible to, have that little bit of time gain as well. Will he go over the curb? No, he does not. Although I know that going over that particular curb as well, it is very tricky because it's very close to invalidation. But it does give you about like 2 or 3 hundredths in your time. And at this point, any sort of time gain does matter. And he is up by almost 8 tenths through his second sector. So let's see how his last sector goes. Coming into the long right-hander, this is where he messed up in the last run that he did. Keeps it clean. Does not make any mistakes so far. Coming through into the last corner. Absolutely nails the braking. Goes on the power slightly later. Turns on the DRS. Goes across the line. A 131.6 by Envy. That is a very, very good lap time from him.
That's an absolutely brilliant lap. Like I said earlier, it's like easy challenge for him. Just needs to do a good lap. That's all. And yeah, that's an absolutely amazing lap time.
Definitely, and a very, very good lap time from Envy, although he does not have his teammate to help him out with him here. So, the Aston Martin boys could outplay Envy in terms of strategy. Because, they could keep one driver out for longer, perhaps the slower driver, they could keep him out for longer and then, make it so that he uses every last bit of tire he has. Slow, perhaps Envy down. And then, whoever the faster driver is, they could catch up and, Envy would have very worn tires because they'd be sitting behind in the dirty air, fighting the other driver. Whereas, first driver or the fastest driver just, was in the free air the whole time. So that could be a lot of advantage over there. That could be somewhat of a team play that Ink and Karthik Sab here could play out.
Yeah, they are known to do some good team strategies. If you remember in the Melbourne race, Ink was holding up Envy for quite a long time for Karthik to catch up, and it almost happened, but Envy was just too quick to, being held down. So we could see some interesting team strategies, like you said.
Yep, and as ABD has invalidated that lap as well, and I don't think there's much time left in the session. Yeah, just a minute and a half to go. Again, the drivers will be rushing to come out of the pits as soon as possible. Although some are still in the pit. Envy is of course gone into the pit. He could very well do a Sebastian Vettel here, or even a Max Verstappen if you're a newer fan to F1.
He has
as
indeed
Envy of course retires in the pits. So yeah, he's pretty confident with his lap.
Yep.
Although let's see, Ink is so far down on his first sector, slightly loose coming out of that turn 11 there, the exit. But still, I think let's hope that he could perhaps get a faster time, because there's still Upbeat, Dark Knight and Alex who are very well capable drivers right behind him, as Uday has also now retired. There's an Alfa Romeo who spun up just ahead of Ink, that's causing yellow flags through that left-hander that was. Someone spun on the exit. That is still an Alfa Romeo going pretty slowly. I think that might be Rajesh. Yeah, that is Rajesh.
Oh,
that is somewhat very close. Although Ink is still down on his second sector. We have to hope for a very, very good last sector over here to make sure. And nope, he's going into the pits. That all hope is on Karthik Sabna, who is improving through the first sector. Let's see. Does he get loose on the exit over here? No, keeps it fairly clean onto the power very early over here. And there's a Williams, I think, who spun in the background right there. It's qualifying over the timer has struck to 0. Karthik Sab coming into turn 12. Does not use the curb like Envy was. I mean, it does give you a lot of an advantage. Although he's taken the apex much better than Envy. He is down on his second sector though by 3.5 tenths. I think all again hopes is come down to the last sector. Can Karthik Sab improve in the last sector? Very close to invalidating right there. I think, yep, sticking very close to the right here. It gives you like a lot of time advantage if you stick completely to the right here. So that's one up on Envy already. Although we have to see, can he beat Envy's time? Because that's a lot of time to improve and it's just not done. And his deploy is already used. Not going to help him out. And he does not improve on his time. is a very fun qualifying yet again over, and as we're on with Abhi,
Wrong
who
time to come on board,
spins.
Abhi.
Yeah.
Wrong time to come on board.
Again,
Saurav as
that
well.
long right-hander catching a couple drives out here, I'd say. But yeah, that's qualifying over. Koushik does not have a wing. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this qualifying, Deepak?
I just think that these guys need to, pull together, get some money, and get the copy of F1 2220 and send him off. Because there is no way they are beating this guy. He's just absolutely rapid. Like, this has been one of the biggest quality gaps I think I've seen in this tier so far.
Interesting. I think Envy already has the copy of the F1 game, so it's only time before he gets moved, I guess. Before the drivers start complaining, like, no, push Envy off to F1 22.
Yeah,
But yeah, still a very good lap from Envy. And as qualifying is over, before we go into the slide, the race director, let me give a bit of info, Deepak. It says that the first 50 minutes of the race is going to be dry. And as qualifying is over here, Envy, of course, fastest with 131.618, followed by Karthik Sub and Ink. Dark Knight, Abhi, Alex, Saurabh, Uday, Turbochuk, Mighty Owl, Fuzzy Dunlop, Inderdes, ABD, Mr. Raut, Rajesh, and Vinay. We'll have a quick run through the race director as well. And coming back to my point, Deepak, on our telemetry, it showed that it is going to be wet throughout.
Yep.
Though I'm getting some info that for the first 15 minutes of the race, it is supposed to be no rain. And then after the 15 minutes, it's going to start raining a lot.
So 15 minutes, I guess that would be 5 laps maybe? Because this game is interpreted in 15 minutes, I don't know, it's not exact same, so I think it'll be 5 or 6 laps, I feel like. And yes, it does
Should be
look to
somewhere
be
around
dry.
that. Yeah, so it should be somewhere around that. Also, another interesting fact, the longer you wait on the grid, the timer has already started ticking for the weather the second you load in. So them waiting to not ready up is, so the longer they wait, the earlier the wet weather is going to hit them. So perhaps someone might want to jump the gun and ready up, although it will give them a penalty for doing so. Perhaps they could count on making positions in the the dry weather when it is still dry for the first couple of minutes of this race.
Yeah, that seems to be an interesting thing to know. But anyway, so coming back to the action on track, let's have a look at the championship standings, shall we? Because it seems to be quite a one-way fight going on, at least in terms of constructors at least. So let's have a look.
Yeah, by the looks of it, of course, Envy leading with 100 points. Karthik Sub 20 points behind him, behind Envy in the Aston Martin with 80 points. And looking over at Ink as well, he's only a point behind his teammates. So the top 3 are still fairly very close over here, although Dark Knight is catching up to the top 3. And coming to the constructors over here, we can see Aston Martin are in lead by somewhat about 30 points, I'd say. They're still, fairly dominating, although the Alpine boys of Dark Knight and Saurabh, they're really putting in the numbers over here, having very good teamwork that we've seen in the last couple of races. They could really make a very big effect on the constructor side of things if the Aston Martin boys have a very bad sort of race today as well, because, two drivers who are very aggressive, Dark Knight and Saurabh, also have very, very good teamwork. They could really punch in a hole in the Aston Martin boys of 30 or something around 30 points lead in the constructors. So it'd be interesting to see how the race turns out for all of these drivers here today.
Yep. So we do see the countdown is ticking down, so he'll be on the grid soon.
Yep, and as formation lap will start now, let's, of course, so what we sort of went through is kind of wrong, because now the drivers are on softs. They'll be on their qualifying softs over here for the first couple of laps anyways. Although ABD, Inderdes and Mr. Raut have decided to go into the medium tires over here, so they're expecting the wet weather to come out slightly later than the others. It'll be interesting to see if it actually works in their favor, because Softs will die after about 2 or 3 laps, and as Rajesh and Vinay have disqualified, they definitely had contact somewhere through the first corner or somewhere around there. So that's not gonna help them with their tire warming as well, because they are on softs. And coming back to my earlier point, if wet weather was to come before a allotted time, I think ABD, Mr. Raut and Inder, they are kind of screwed here because they are on mediums. So the softs will die after the first 3 or 4 laps since they are quali softs. It's not going to help them out if the rain comes immediately, within the first 5, 6 or 7 laps or such. And they're properly screwed, I'd say.
I still think they have got themselves some more options. But again, like I usually say, it all depends on how well their first lap is. If first lap is bad, then the strategy is already out the window and they're boxing themselves into a corner. But if they somehow are getting clean on the first lap with the impending rain, I still think they have made a good call.
I mean, definitely that could come into play. And of course, not to forget, since they're starting towards the back of the grid, they'll have to be careful going into turn 1. I mean, they'll of course have a very, very clean inside over there. So, they could perhaps just send it down the inside, gain a lot of positions while the chaos ensues up front. Or they could get trapped on the inside. And essentially, if you go, they really don't want to go on the curb on the inside over there. So, they get stuck over there, essentially everyone's just going to pass them all around the outside. So that is something also that they'll have to be careful about. And not to forget, perhaps not take any battlers or just have like the proper inside line going through the S's, because they're going side by side would mean, 2 drivers can definitely fit through there, 2 cars can definitely fit through there, but it really, really, depends upon if the drivers really trust each other and, they just don't collide at all or have any sort of contact there, because, a slight bit of contact through the S's cause a lot of problems. And as all of the drives are lining up, Deepak, why don't you take us through the start yet again?
Yep. So we're waiting for Arjun to come out the grid and we should be having the lights pretty soon. Yep. We do have the lights and it's 5 lights and it's lights out and away we go. We see a good start and the Ferrari of Alex seems to have a very bad start there. And Envy has gotten up ahead. He's already got up ahead of Karthik. Karthik is trying to send it down the inside, but Envy goes on the outside. And we see the Alpine of Dark Knight just sending it on the inside, and Ink is pushed on to out the rack, but somehow he still manages to make it through. Dark Knight was making a very, very bold move there, and we already have a DNF. That's Alex. Alex is in the wall, and he's missing a wheel. He's out of the session already.
Yeah, that was a very bad start for Alex. Virtual safety car over here could be made into a safety car. Although let's see, Fuzzy Dunlop is desynced, and I saw Alex in the background. He just lost the control of his car going through the S's and just retired. And as I was saying, you really have to trust yourself as well as the drivers going through there. It does not help with the fact that, Alex was, I'd say, the car on the inside over there, and he just lost control of his car and went out. And that has caught ABD as well, because ABD does not have a front wing. So there perhaps was some sort of a collision between ABD and Alex, which has caused Alex to retire, and ABD, of course, missing the whole front wing. So this is really screwed over ABD, because one thing he had to do with the medium tires was avoid any sort of collisions and contacts, and keep at least the first 2 or 3 laps clean as we go green flag racing yet again. ABD has failed to do so, so he'd perhaps go into the softs, but he's gonna have a lot of time loss, because I don't think any other driver has damage. He's gonna be the only person who's be like 30-40 seconds behind everyone else.
Is Dark Knight having any wing damage? Because he sent the move right up the inside and Karthik just completely shut the door. So I mean, that was a very, very optimistic move from Dark Knight. I'm pretty sure he might have some wing damage on his right side at least. Is it all good on his side, or how is the telemetry showing up?
Yeah, the telemetry is showing that he is completely fine, and also looking at it visually, he seems fine, so no problem for Dark Knight. Just managed to keep his wings clean, although I think in that very, very slow speed over there. And the game is bugging out and giving blue flags out to someone. It is very weird. But yeah, so I think that very slow speed, what happened was they just had like a slight wheel bang or something, and even in like a very slow, I'd say like 60-50 kph corner, that is turn 1, at least the apex of it is taken at 50 to 60 kph. A slight touch like that would not really mean much, although we can see Fuzzy Dunlop is decent, and Vinay just pushes him out slightly and makes a move, and Vinay really looks on the pace over here, trying to make a move on Mighty Owl. Mighty Owl goes off slightly wide. Vinay is looking down the inside. Vinay side by side with Mighty Owl. He sends one down the inside, makes the move stick. And Mighty just goes off slightly wider. I think there's a bit of chaos ensuing because of Fuzzy Dunlop's, I'd say, decent car over here. And then in the next 5 minutes, again, it says slicks. So perhaps it will actually take about, I'd say, 10 or so laps before it starts raining. And then after that, of course, it's going to be wet throughout. We can see even Turbo Juke is now slightly decent. He's teleporting here and there. So that's going to be somewhat of a nuisance to these drivers. Especially Saurav Pat, who's looking to perhaps catch up to his teammate Dark Knight, who's up into P4 right now. And we can see Envy has already made a very, very decent lead at almost about 1.5 seconds. DRS gets enabled over here in this lap. He is almost a second behind his teammate, 8/10 to be very exact. This is the first lap of the race. We can see Uday using up his ERS to catch up to Abhi. He's looking down the inside. They're going side by side currently. Uday breaks later and just makes the mistake. Also, Abhi's coming with the switchback. Now they're again still going side by side through the S's. Will Abhi give up? Yes, he does slightly give up because he was on a very botched line for the entry into the S's, and Abhi just playing it very smart over here, although he has lost a couple of positions from the start.
Yep, but yeah, that was really smart of him to back out of that, because it was never going to end well going side by side through that section. All it takes is just a little bit of a contact and you're sent into the wall, just like what you saw with Alex.
There's Yelfak, that sort of Pat who's now spun out. He gone with sort of Pat, yeah, no damage, although he did spin, perhaps went into the gravel. It's not going to play out in their teamwork when, he was trying to catch up to his teammate Dark Knight, who's in P4, and carry out like a proper teamwork strategy over there.
Looks like
and
Envy
has now left the session. He has disconnected. Unless they are restarting, which we're not aware of, although I don't see there being a reason to restart. Envy is disconnected. Now Karthik Sab has caught up a lot already. Karthik Sab caught up over a second. Yeah, he caught up over a second because of disconnect. He's passed him. Now Ink will be looking to get past Envy's ghosted car over here. I think personally it'd be done pretty easily. And this is not playing out well for Envy, because now the two Aston Martin boys are fairly close to each other. Ink also has the DRS now, and with the help of the DRS alone, Ink and Karthik Sab can pull away a lot, through these corners. And as we can see, Abhi is now starting to go down the inside of Uday. They're still going side by side. Abhi is still right on the outside. Abhi is past Uday actually. Abhi did what Uday did to him just a lap earlier, and this is some nice action we're seeing over here on the track.
Yep, so that was a good fight back from Abhi. He just bided his time and used the DRS to good effect there. That was a good race.
Definitely, although it is slowing them down a lot.
That is true.
They're not able to catch up to the leaders. Although, let's pay attention to ABD, because this is the only interval that we can see currently. He was, I'd say, about 20-21 seconds behind after he came out of the pace with his damage. He's already caught up over 10 seconds and he's still catching up with a very rapid pace.
Yeah, these guys are very close to each other, and they are scrapping as well, so that could give him a bit more of time to catch up. I mean, he's on softs as well, which explains how he's able to catch up quite rapidly.
Definitely. I think it is helping around, as in the race is now past Rajesh. In the race, of course, being on mediums, he started out on mediums, kept it clean through turn 1, unlike ABD. ABD, of course, had to pit because of that. Although in the race, is making up decent positions as the softs are now starting to die out. So it could slightly play in the hands of the medium runners. They could perhaps make a lot more positions and just still somewhat around the, the P10 mark. So perhaps they'd be gaining enough time to, perhaps before the rain comes, make a move on the drivers ahead using their tire advantage alone.
I think Envy has reconnected this session, so his car is not posted anymore. The Dark Knight is within the DRS range of Envy, and now Envy has to make the pass on Ink and Karthik. So yeah, he's definitely made things a bit interesting for himself and for us as well.
Definitely, of course, not intentional. I mean, he would have absolutely hated to disconnect like that.
Yep.
Although he is joined back fairly quickly, it's not going to be easy for him, regardless of how much he pushes, because Ink might have the DRS of his teammate. Does he?
He is out of the DRS range. He might not have the DRS this time.
Yeah, he does not have the DRS, so it's not going to help out Ink in any way. Although Ink has a lot more ERS than Envy. Envy has the DRS. He's trying to late break. He's living right side by side through turn 12. Just defense of the inside has the much better line through there. Now Envy will be trying to make a move through sector 3. This next corner coming up here is a very good opportunity to send one down the inside. Envy does not do that. He's the better of it. Now realistically, is the only proper next opportunity to make a move is going into turn 1.
Yep, that was good defensive driving from in there. He just parked his car on the inside and managed to squeeze Envy onto the outside as much as he could. That was really good to see, but I don't know how long he can hold on to because Envy is coming at him again. This time with TRS and even more TRS. So I think this might be fairly complete. He might easily complete the
Unless
overtake.
Ink sends one down the inside, and Ink does do that. And Ink is now going side by side with Envy. Envy goes for the switchback, although he has to concede the position. Just went too far deep into the first corner, and then, of course, Envy just broke slightly earlier. Took the inside, went for the switchback, and it stuck out for him. And we can see Fuzzy Dunlop is desyncing a lot, so disregard that. And as Abhi is the first person to get 3-second time penalties here, as sort of Bat has now retired from the session. There's yellow flags in sector 1 and 2. This could perhaps bring out a VSC, or if it's fairly severe, even a safety car. Let's see how does that play out. I mean, of course, they won't be making any moves because of yellow flag in sector 1 and 2. So he is still going through sector 2, so he perhaps can't make a move through there. Right now, so far, no VSC, no SC, so I think that car will be cleared up. Yeah, that car will perhaps be cleared up soon. Green flags, so it is very unfortunate for sort of Pat. He was looking to, charge up properly and, perhaps catching Dark Knight and doing some bit of teamwork with him. It's not going to help out Alpine and the constructors as well against the Aston Martin boys, who are about 30 or so points in the lead, and now there's only one car remaining, so Dark Knight will be hoping for someone else, perhaps Ink or even Karthik Sub, to retire. And right now he'll just be hoping that the both of them retire. We can see Envy is caught up a lot to Karthik Sub. Karthik Sub made a mistake coming through the final corner. Now Envy is sending one down the inside. Envy has sent it down the inside. Still has the inside line. He is ahead. Blocks off Karthik Sub through the apex. But the Karthik Sub is coming back at him, although not through the S's. Envy is ahead through the S's. Karthik Sub will be looking to make sure that he is right behind Envy going through here. Although Envy is looking at superb pace right now. Pulling away just half a second already. And next best opportunity for Karthik Sub is coming into turn 11. Although I think he's slightly too far for that. He is closing in though. Will he send one from this far back? No, he does not. Again, next best opportunity will be into turn 12. He has the DRS, the slipstream, the ERS, although gets a much worse exit compared to Envy. He is using his DRS, not his ERS. I'm not sure why. Although he's catching. He is forcing him around the outside. They're still going side by side. Karthik Sub makes a move around the outside as Envy locks up to make sure he's still ahead of Karthik Sub. It's not worked out for him. Going through sector 3 now. Karthik Sub is still ahead. The Envy is very, very close to Karthik Sub, coming through into this long left-hander, which then transitions off into the long right-hander. And Envy could perhaps make a move either into turn 1 or even, if he's brave, perhaps into the final corner. Although I don't think he's close enough for the final corner move, so definitely will be a move into turn 1 for him. As Karthik Sub goes off into the pits over here, not sure why he's pitting already.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it had damage or something, but it didn't look like he had damage or whatever. But it looks to be going through a regular pit-stop strategy, going on to the mediums.
So that makes me wonder, when will the wet weather come? And Deepak, if you don't mind, I just want to answer one of the questions that are in the chat, as nothing is properly going on the track right now. Oscar F122 gets streamed on Sunday, so we do have 2 tiers on F122. Tier 2 is at 2:30 p.m. IST and Tier 1 is at 8 p.m. IST on Sunday, so do tune in for that. And now coming back onto the on-track action itself, we can see it has not really worked out for Ink over here, because he perhaps wanted to be ahead of Envy, but right now he's behind Envy, so he can't really slow him down. He's not within his DRS either. The wet weather is looking really stubborn, does not want to come out soon, so not sure what will be going through Ink's mind, because he's sort of in a very botchy situation over here.
Yep, I mean, I thought by this time, based on our telemetry, we thought we'd have some wet weather, but I don't know what's going on. We still don't have rain, but you see Karthik is making a move on Vinay. Fairly easy move, new mediums, old bone softs, not much of a fight, and he moves on. So yeah, going back, like you said, Ink would have definitely wanted to better, but his pace definitely doesn't really look to be matching either his teammates or Envy, because even when he was keeping Envy behind, he fell out of the TRS range from Karthik fairly quick. So yeah, that's not really looking good. But also I wonder what happened to Karthik the last lap when Envy actually made the move, because he looked to have the gap figured out. But all of a sudden in the final corner he just lost a lot of time. Maybe he had a spin or something, but whatever happened, it really put him back by a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Karthik making that mistake lost him a lot of time if he was planning on pitting just a lap later. And as Ink has also picked on the fresh set of mediums, Uday has followed in along with Vinay and Rajesh, and there's predicted conditions saying the next 5 minutes will become cloudy, so perhaps rain will follow suit. I think somewhere around the last 10 or so laps could perhaps be wet.
Yeah, it does look like it. So far, I think the people who started with medium tires, I think they might have made a good choice. But that also depends on how quick the rain comes, because they can't just keep going on medium forever. Even that tire has some life, so you can't really keep pushing that forever. So in the days, there's our lead driver on the alternate strategy. He's running P5 right now, and his medium tires are 8 laps old. So could you check on the tire wear?
Tire wear is looking yellowish on the front, more towards orange on the front and yellow on the rear. So he still has a lot of tire life left in his tires. Could be somewhere around the 30-40% mark, I'd say. On the fronts, and then somewhere around the 25 to 30% on his rear. So he's looking fine for now. He doesn't really have to realistically pit until it becomes wet, because if he manages to stay out until it becomes wet, as Envy has pit, would Karthik Sub jump him?
Yep,
Karthik Sub has jumped him. That was a very good undercut from Karthik Sub, although his tires will be slightly more worn out than Envy. I think it's about 3 or 4% tire wear per lap here. So Envy's gonna have 3 or 4% better, fresher tires, and in the longer run it does play out a lot towards Envy. So Karthik Sub is really hoping for the wet weather to come sooner rather than later over here, so that essentially it completely nulls down any sort of advantage, and then just down to the driver skill itself, before sort of setups or anything that come into play. So that'll be interesting to see as well. Although I think right now, looking at the current pace, I think the drivers have gone for more of a hybrid setup, as Abhi is using his ERS, DRS, and has a lot more ERS than in the race. He's looking down the inside. He's already passed in the race. That will be an easy move, because in the race did start on those medium tires compared to Abhi, who just pit for them. Although Abhi does have 3-second time penalty, so he will also have to look out for that and essentially make no mistakes, in the hopes that doesn't put the driver's bend within his 3 seconds threshold, or of course not get any more time penalties.
Yep, so track limits are a very important thing here, and just like any other race, it could have a huge impact on the results. So they've got to be careful of the track limit violations that they're going to incur. Let's see, Envy is already closed up. He's 5 turns, 4 turns almost. So yeah, Envy does look to be inevitable for the lead.
At this pace, definitely, as long as he makes, of course, no mistakes going further on out from here, he'll be in the clear with the easy move. Ink has lost a lot of time with that pit. He's about 3.5 seconds almost behind Envy and Karthik. And Karthik is again just under a lot of pressure here from Envy. Though they are on the similar level of DRS, Envy does have the DRS, which of course plays out a lot. Such a long straight, I think over a kilometer long straight. So Let's see, yeah, Envy is coming with the DRS. He's just zooming past Karthik's up. And yeah, that was a fairly easy move. Now Winner gets 3-second time penalty as well. And yeah, again, this drive was somewhat, especially the Aston Martin ones are somewhat struggling over here. And as we can see, that Uday is now also making a move on Inderdesh, who of course started on those medium tires, although would play out in a better way for Inderdesh if he just manages to stay out until the raindrops come, because then he essentially did not lose those 30 or so seconds. And now Karthik sub gets 3 seconds. Vinay is now past Rajesh. This has completely turned the face of this race, as Envy has the fastest lap of the race. Now Karthik will be really hoping that Envy could get 3-second time penalty over here, or at least some sort of time penalties, perhaps even 6 seconds, that it somewhat mitigates out the thing of the 3 seconds, because now Ink is catching up onto Karthik slowly but surely, and that could just perhaps mean that Ink gets the P2, whereas Karthik is clearly faster driver in general compared to Ink.
And that could happen, but still it's fairly early. Still a lot to happen. We're not even into the halfway point of the race yet, so yeah, I would definitely say there's still a lot more to do.
Yeah, definitely, there is a lot more to do, as Envy sets the fastest first sector yet again. And yeah, at this point, I'd say the medium runners who did start out on the mediums initially, I think they're still slightly in advantage, because its remaining drivers, of course, is only Inderdesh and Mr. Rajesh. Inderdesh, of course, in a much better position right now compared to Rajesh. Could play out well for them because they didn't lose those, the 30 seconds that you lose, about 28 or so seconds that you lose during the pit. They've been out, and compared to the tire wear margin, compared to the pit margin, I think they're in the better over here right now. And as long as it rains with the next about 3 or 4 laps, as we can see, somewhat of a cloud cover is already starting to form through. We can see in sector 3 there's a very slight cloud cover, although it is starting to form now. And then if it rains within the next 2 or 3 laps, as I said earlier, it could play out very well for Inderdesh.
Yep, he needs rain, and he needs it right now to make the best out of his strategy, because like I said earlier, he can't be just going on these tires forever. It's got to end at some point. And like I said, if it goes on even furthermore, then all the guys who meet the pit stop will be catching up soon, and already a few people passed him. So he really can't be waiting forever. He needs a rain right now.
Definitely, he's quite desperate for the rain out of everyone, honestly. He is putting in consistent laps over here. He's not making any mistakes. It's just that his tire wear is not helping him out, as he has orange, solid orange on his front tires, so his fronts are completely eaten up at this point, somewhere around the 50 to 55% mark now. They're really eaten up at this point. So every lap is just getting harder for Inderdesh to take those corners, and we can see that his tires are
cloudy,
somewhere
I can see the
around,
transition is gonna kick in pretty soon. I can already see it.
Yeah, so again, this could play out for Inderdesh. He has been very patient throughout this race, staying out. He has, of course, lost 2 or 3 positions here and there. He's losing a lot of time currently to the cars behind, although it could play out well for him in the longer run. Again, if it rains the next 2 or 3 laps, and with the predicted condition, it is intermediate conditions with the next 5 minutes. So that could well play out in Inderdesh's hands over here. Of course, he won't be able to get the jump on someone like Envy or Karthik or even Ink, because they're too far ahead. But perhaps more of a jump, on the drivers behind like Turbochuk, Vinay, perhaps even stay ahead of them, or have even minimal time loss compared to someone who's like Uday or Abhi, who are just slightly ahead of them right now.
Yeah, considering where he started, I think he started 13 or 12 or something. So that will be a very good jump, very good result if you could manage it.
Definitely, for him right now is just keeping it clean until the rain comes, and when the rain comes, be the first one to pit, because it will be, of course, a very big undercut, and if you can pull off an undercut over here in this circuit, especially during the wet, as we saw, with Opmer, as he did in his league, Resiano Opmer, could be a very, very big advantage for him. And, perhaps he could even be fighting for 5 positions in this race. But we'll have to see how that turns out for him. And currently speaking, Envy has already pulled away almost 3 seconds from Karthik Sub in the matter of just about 2, 3 or 4, somewhere around those laps. So Envy showing a lot of pace and a lot of clean racing right now from his side at least. And of course, Ink, who was catching up slightly to Karthik at one point, has now fallen back by 2 seconds. So I think Ink is doing it on purpose because they want more of a margin when pitting, because they're still fairly close to each other, about 5 seconds. They're very close to each other. So they would want to make somewhat of a slight margin while pitting so that, nobody gets held up in the wet conditions, because that will just make things much worse for Ink currently.
Yep, you could already see some raindrops coming down onto the track, so I think the grip level is going to transition at any moment now.
Definitely, and as we know with this game, weather changes very drastically. So, in Sector 1, it could be completely dry. By the time you reach Sector 3, it's already raining a decent amount for you to consider going on to the inters immediately. That could be something that's happened over here. And we can see the track is starting to get slightly wet, slightly more slippery over here. The drivers are starting to struggle slightly more. So you have to see, and right now this is completely out of DRS. So he'll just be hoping Turbochuk does not get a very good exit through that corner. And by the looks of it, Turbochuk did get a fairly decent exit out of there. Although he does have the DRS. Has a clear pace advantage right now because of his tires. I think this could perhaps try and pull off an undercut over here. And as Turbochuk sends it from completely far away, from Galaxy far away is where Turbochuk sends it from. And he sticks it because he has that fresher tire grip. This has no response to that because his tires are completely dead. And I think this at this point is severely considering that Inter's undercut right now. Perhaps he could pull off into the pits, because I think staying out for one more lap over here would be slightly bad for him, especially. I mean, look at his tires, they're completely dead. Will this go into the pits over here? He does not. He decides to stay out for another lap. This could play out horribly for this because the DRS could be disabled at any point right now. And well, it doesn't really matter. He has the DRS. Turbochuk has already pulled a second and a half. Gained over half a second just through that final corner exit. This is not going to play out well for this at all. I think he should have pit and gone for the intermediates.
Yep, I think considering the things that he has done, he could have maybe tried for an undercut, but let's see what kind of conditions are going to come out, because you already see the raindrops coming. It's just any moment now the conditions are going to completely switch over into low grip wet conditions. So it's just a game of who blinks first right now.
Yeah, and currently looking up at the leaders, Karthik Sab is just hoping that it turns wet exactly when he's crossing the pit lane, and Envy has already gone past the pit lane so that he could perhaps into the pit lane and get an undercut on him. Although I don't think that will be happening.
So far, no one is entering the pit lane. Karthik and Mini has crossed it. Will Ink go into the pit lane? Nope. Ink is also going through the...
also does not go to the pit lane.
Looks like the drivers have a bit more confidence to stretch it a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have a lot more grip since these drivers did pit for fresher tires. Perhaps if it was, on the tires that they started off with. Although I don't think the softs would go for 70 laps in any way at all. But yeah, I think it was somewhat of a smart decision for them. I guess, of course, they have a more accurate data with them. And of course, Jeff telling in their ears, when it is going to start raining. So their experience, as Interdace now finally goes into the pits, perhaps for the intermediate tires. He's decided that it is too wet to stay out on these very old mediums over here.
And we have a crash car of ABD. Is that ABD? Yes, it was ABD.
No damage yet again. Although I think his D-pad steering is not helping him out over here. And as Interdace has now pit for Inters, so Interdace is now looking to pull out the world's biggest undercut on everyone ahead of him for the intermediate tires, because it could actually pull out well for him if the conditions become very, very bad in a matter of about 2 or 3 corners, which, of course, with this game's unpredictability and intense weather conditions, it could well perhaps happen.
Yep, and wait, was there some kind of a desync? Because the last I saw, Abhi was chasing after Dark Knight, and now all of a sudden Abhi's ahead.
I think Dark Knight made a mistake somewhere.
No, he just
why Abhi
instantly
is ahead.
vanished and Abhi was in front all of a sudden. So looked a bit weird.
Then perhaps the Dark Knight all tapped for a second, and that just caused him to teleport behind Abhi. Abhi will absolutely take it. I mean, he has a 3-second time penalty. He is ahead. Mighty Owl has also pulled off an undercut over here. And both the Haas drivers are now on intermediates, although right now, by the looks of it, it's not really at right now, so it's not going to help out in the race. So he has lost over 2 seconds in the matter of just about 2 sectors over here. And Mr. Raut, who's getting lapped, he is desync. Mr. Raut is already 2 laps down. That is some sort of desync in itself, because he was there and then he has completely disappeared yet again. Mr. Raut is either completely desync in some sort of way or he's disconnected. And there's yellow flag in sector 2.
That's a Haas.
That is right on the exit of turn 11, and that is Mighty Owl. So yeah, it is definitely not wet enough for the intermediates, although it is getting wetter. I think either this and Mighty Owl just have to make sure they keep it on track at this point. Although you can see Mighty Owl is 35 seconds behind ABD itself. Rajesh is now pitting for inters. Vinay has pit for inters. He's going for softs.
I wonder if this was a game. I'm pretty sure it was just a game just messing up the pit stops. But yeah, that's gonna be another pit stop for him.
It has to be a game error over here, because Rajesh would definitely not go to softs in these. Okay, now they're clearly intermediate conditions, so I think Dark Knight and everyone else currently basically they will have to pit, whereas Vinay, Indrades, ABD, Mighty Owl get a very big undercut on these drivers. Karthik Sab has already pulled into the pits. He'll be going on to the inters. Will Ink follow me? Ink also follows him in. And there's a Haas we can see going off wide. And
Abhi has gone into the wall. And he managed to keep the car running though, so that's great.
Yup, win gone. And there's yellow flag in sector 2 and 3. And now
that's
everyone's
Uday.
Uday has now retired from the race. Where has he retired?
And it's a safety car. In the days is gonna be very frustrated.
He's going to be absolutely punching his table right now. As Abhi has gone on to softs as well.
Oh no.
That is a glitch for Abhi as well. This will be absolutely pissed, because he did that very big undercut, completely relied on that undercut working out for him. Right now, because of the safety car, it's not really worked out for him at all. Any way, shape or form, because he was hoping to be ahead of the drivers, like Uday, Turbochuk, Abhi, he was hoping to be ahead of them, or at least very close to them. And right now, by the looks of it, he's 51 seconds behind them, so this is not played out well at all for in the race. He'll be absolutely fuming.
Yep. Also, Karthik's plans of doing undercuts are also out the window now, because safety car is leaving NV and absolutely free pit stop.
Yeah, and Fuzzy Dunlop has managed to desync his way up into P2. He's not in P2 for the viewers, just so you know. He's desynced into P2. Karthik Sab is P2, followed by Ink, Dark Knight, Abhi, Turbochuk in the race. Rajesh, Vinay, Uday of course retired. Then ABD, Mighty Owl missed out. Not sure where Fuzzy Dunlop is fitting in though. And guess what, Deepak? It has not played out well for Envy. Although he is fitting under the safety car, so it could perhaps work out for him. Because he was on the mediums for just 1 lap more, so he would have lost a lot more time compared to, Karthik Sab or something. Karthik Sab will, of course, be completely pushing the delta right now. This could be close. No, I don't think.
It's
I
nowhere
think
near
Envy
close.
is going to
It's
come
an
out ahead.
absolutely easy free stop for Envy.
Yeah, so again, Karthik Sab will be absolutely pissed as well, because he saw Envy out on mediums for 1 more lap, and it was clearly very, very, very wet, and Envy just managed to keep it under control, did not spin, and ABD gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. This race has just gone from bad to worse. I don't know what's below worse because it's just absolutely horribly wrong for ABD over here.
As Abi makes his way to the pits once again to correct his wrongly fitted soft tires. I hope the game doesn't mess it up again for him. Yes, it's Inter's coming out, so yeah, he does get the Inter tires, but he's gonna lose some positions over here. I think he might just get away with it. I feel like no, I think he'll be losing one position. Turbo Chip will be getting past him.
Yep, so he will be ahead of Inter this. Of course, I mean, we have not spoken to him. We do not have team radios as well in this game, but we can clearly tell that he is absolutely fuming right now. He is on much older tires as well, 2 lap older tires compared to everyone else. So it's just horribly gone wrong for Inter this. And Mighty Owl as well, who just pit 1 lap after Inter this. And Mighty Owl unfortunately spun on the exit of turn 11 that we saw earlier. While the track was fairly high, so not gone well at all. I mean, it was a very good call from both the Haas drivers, but it just did not work out well for them because they could not keep it on track and keep it clean. So when the track was clearly dry, I think if they just held out for one more lap, I think they would have been fine, but clearly not right now.
Yep, and the desync car of Fuzzy Dunlop is causing some issues here. Hope it doesn't really mess up the race too much. But there's going to be something that the coordinators are going to have to look at the end of the race, because there's been a lot of weird DCs that we did see in the lobby today. So, yeah, that's one thing that we're going to have to be careful about.
Yeah, and as Karthik sub is trying to get past Fuzzy Dunlop.
I'm pretty sure Karthik sub is not even seeing Fuzzy Dunlop on a screen or something like that. But whatever it is, it's definitely not conductive for the drivers here.
Yeah, that's true. What's worse is now Karthik sub, I think he glitched past Fuzzy Dunlop. Fuzzy Dunlop could well, report that.
No, Fuzzy Dunlop was always in the bottom, like he was not on the top. He just randomly glitched to 1 and 2 and was just going on here and there. I mean, I still don't know. I still don't know which is the accurate position. But from whatever I saw, Fuzzy Dunlop is not in the top.
Yeah, but he is lapped right now. If Mr. Doubt is about 2 or 3 laps down, I think Fuzzy Dunlop is at least a lap or so down. And so I think he is decent definitely because he is glitching out in a lot of positions. Although I think he is lapped, so he is going to cause a lot of trouble for the Aston Martin boys. Although Karthik sub is past him, so his next clear person is Envy. And we can see Dark Knight is, this very decent as not helping out Fuzzy Dunlop in any way, shape or form. Although Karthik sub is of course punching his wall right now because there is a Haas, I think, that is separating him and Envy. So it is very crucial for him that, the Haas driver, whoever it may be, it is Mighty Owl, that he complies and lets Karthik sub by as soon as possible so that he can catch Envy. Because otherwise it's not going to go well for him at all. And as Fuzzy Dunlop is now reversing on the track,
I think he was just...
And he had a spin.
Spun around, yeah. The desync, like I said, it's really not helping his case today.
Yeah, and we can't even tell if it was actually him who spun or if it's his decent car that's making him look like as if he spun out. This is a very confusing situation right now. Although we can see APD is leading the pack of Rajesh, Vinay and Mighty Owl, and they're still fairly about 25 seconds behind the rest of the pack. Safety car is going to stay out for one more lap, and we are on lap 21, so that, let's just say the safety car goes in the next lap. We're going to have about 6 or 7 laps of racing in this race, and it will be interesting to see if Karthik sub and Envy, can they make that pace difference now that they're again still very close to each other because of the safety car. Can they put a lot of pressure together on Envy? And will Envy fall for that pressure, or will he just show pure and utter, Lewis Hamilton and dominance and then pull away in the wet as well?
I just think, if Karthik was right on the diffuser of Envy, maybe he could have had a chance. But the Haas of Mighty Owl, that's being a spanner in the works for Karthik right now. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a tough chance. The only choice for Karthik and Envy is to hope that Envy makes some kind of a mistake that they could capitalize on. But other than that, I really don't see any other way that Envy is letting this slip through.
Yeah, definitely. Envy does know that. He knows that he has that advantage of Mighty being right behind him. Mighty will give Dirty Air to Karthik Sub and Ink behind him. So it essentially is playing out in favor of Envy right now, unless Karthik Sub and Ink can completely jump Mighty Owl through the restart, and they're already on the diffuser of Envy by the end of, I'd say, turn 1, or even going through the S's. Because if they're not, then their race is pretty much, screwed over there. I mean, if Ink can keep it clean, he will get P2 over here. But that could also mean that, Dark Knight will be under pressure as well, because he has drivers like Turboshock and Abhi behind him. Although Dark Knight does not have time penalties, he will be looking to stay within 3 seconds of Karthik Sub, because that could promote him up into the podium positions, and that could be absolutely devastating for Karthik. Essentially, the top 4 have a lot of pressure on each other. Safety car is going in this lap, and of course all the drivers will even get temperature into their tires. Karthik Sub will be absolutely laser focused on Envy right now, in the hopes that he does not make any mistake and absolutely jumps Mighty Owl as well as Envy on this restart. Of course, Avery does have that drive through, so he'll be looking to serve it as soon as possible. His race is pretty much over at this point. He will come out ahead of Mighty Owl, but yeah, his race is pretty much over. Staying on board with Envy to see when he will jump the rest of the cars, as he is coming into the penultimate corner, still weaving and to get temperature into his tires. And I think he will go any moment now. Any moment now, perhaps. He just has to catch out Karthik Sub, because Mighty Owl, and he has gone. Yep. He didn't even have to wait for Mighty Owl, because Mighty Owl is lapped. Envy has gone. He's already pulled away 2 seconds almost from Karthik Sub. Ink was left napping. Now Dark Knight is getting under pressure from Turboshock over here. Abhi is also pressuring them, and this is getting very confusing because of Fuzzy Dunlop. Not sure where he's at, but he is causing a lot of trouble right now with his decent car. You can see a train forming from Ink and behind, so Ink is doing absolutely everything to stop them, and Ink is already 3 seconds behind Karthik Sub. So essentially this was a completely planned out thing from the Aston Martin boys, because they knew, I think, they won't be able to catch Envy. So at least what they could do is secure a 2 and 3 for themselves. Although we can see Dark Knight has a lot of pace compared to Ink right now, although Ink is doing an absolute masterclass of defending. Although if Dark Knight slips past Ink in any slight shape or form, be able to easily close in within 3 seconds of Karthik Sub, and Karthik Sub could lose a lot of positions over here because of 3 seconds. Yellow flags in sector 2 yet again. That is ABD who spun. This race is not going well out for ABD at all.
Out of Mighty Owl. Mighty Owl is spun.
Yep, so at least there won't be any dirty at then. He definitely did not abide with, I'd say, the blue flag rules, although it is not sure, so we'll have to see how it goes out for him. And we can see Dark Knight is just frustrated right now, because he wants to make a move on Ink so that he can get past stay within 3 seconds of Karthik Sub. Envy is pulled out 2.5 seconds on Karthik Sub in a matter of a lap and a half. Envy showing a lot of pace from his side currently, and Ink really wants them to be, stay behind. Yellow flags in sector 2 and 3. Yellow flags in only sector 2 now. That's someone's car that has started to move yet again. I think that's an Alpine. I think of Mr. Raut there, and Williams and Mr. Raut. Yeah, let's see. Dark Knight is again. He's losing a lot of time staying behind Ink, and has Ink has gone into the pace. What's happening over here? What is happening over here?
And Dark Knight gets 10 seconds. Wow.
It does get 10 seconds, so now I think he did that purely to absolutely confuse him. One of the drivers are pitting right now.
Everyone's gone into the full wets.
Full wets, so it has completely turned into full wets condition right now. And that has completely caught out Dark Knight, and it's not gone well for him at all, because he has 10 seconds because of fault of his own. Those 10 seconds are not going to get removed, because again, he reacted to Ink going in, but then decided to back out as he's going into the pit lane. So now Dark Knight will be absolutely devastated. Horrible race day for both the Alpine boys. Out of Pat retired early on in the race, whereas Dark Knight has now gotten 10 seconds. And Envy has pulled off an absolute amazing undercut over here as well. Abhi is still leading the race though, although he will also be looking to pit. Essentially, Envy will lead this race yet again. Followed closely by Karthik Sub and Ink. That is, if Karthik Sub and Ink can get past Vinay as soon as possible. By the looks of it, does not look like it. Karthik Sub right on the back of Vinay. Avery has now gone 3 seconds as well. Still, Karthik is trying it down the inside. Yes, he does. I think Vinay just lets him by like that. And that was Envy, I think, who was on the curbs over there. He perhaps would have lost a lot of time. Yeah, he did. He made a mistake on the exit of turn 11, although he's using up all of his ERS now to pull away as much as he can. Karthik Sir perhaps also will be doing the same to close in onto Envy. Now these last 4 laps comes down to who can keep it clean, who can stay ahead. Will Envy make a mistake? Any mistake over here from Envy could result in an absolute blunder of a race for him. And there's a safety car right now. Another safety car with just about 4 laps to go.
I think that was
What is
Mr.
going
Rao,
on?
I think.
It is Mr. Deepak, and this is essentially helped out Abhi because there's a fair distance between him and Envy. Of course, all the drivers have to follow a delta, although Abhi could push the delta slightly to get into the pits.
He stayed out. I think
Although
he
Abhi
might
has
have
not
missed the pit
paid.
lane.
Could have missed the... I don't think he would have missed the pit lane. I think he has decided to stay out. Not sure why. Maybe he thinks it's a good
Could
call.
be a
It's
worthy
definitely not a
gamble,
good call.
but ideally speaking, right now it's guaranteed one racing lap. So I think Abhi is backing himself up to hold on to the lead for just one lap. But I do think it's going to be a very tall order.
Yeah, definitely. B will be absolutely clenching onto his hopes and his prayers right now, and he is hoping to stay ahead because he does have 3 seconds. So realistically, he could be ahead of Karthik Sub and definitely Dark Knight. What could happen over here is the ink could jump Abhi as well, and perhaps if Envy again makes a mistake in that 1 or 2 laps that are left in the racing, could definitely win this race as long as he does not make any mistakes, and that is Envy makes a mistake, although right now by the looks of it Envy is not making a mistake. And by the way, ABD still hasn't cleared his drive-through. At the end of this safety car, he will have to clear his drive-through under any circumstances. Essentially, ABD is very frustrated right now, definitely, because he got the drive-through and there's another safety car that has followed him through, and his race is pretty much over. Basically it's over at this point. And yeah, I think I'm completely out of words over here, Deepak. This is on from very decent strategical masterclass from, of course, people like Inder Des, and now this turned completely upside down the race. Who do you think could come out on top over here?
It looks clear that Envy has it in the bag, and it's pretty sure that once the race is green flagged, once the safety car is over and the race restarts, although Abhi might get the jump, it's still the tire advantage is gonna swing towards Envy, and I think Envy can easily get this with him. And again, it's gonna take some drastic circumstances for the result to change. That's for sure.
Yup. If Envy somehow gets a 3-second time penalty, that could essentially hand Ink the win. And there's a few lapped cars here and there. That's a lapped car of... No, that is Abhi. Sorry, he's not lapped. But yeah, Abhi is essentially in the way of Envy, and it looks like we'll have a maximum of 2 racing laps over here. So I think if Abhi can keep it clean, keep it ahead, use everything he has to stay ahead of Envy, he could definitely salvage up a couple of positions over here. Although in the longer run, it's not looking good for him, because if he essentially creates a train behind him, what's that going to do is he's going to bunch up everyone, and at the end of the day, he's going to lose a lot more positions.
Yeah, and we do see Rajesh has gone into the pits, and so did Mighty Owl. I think he had some wing damage or something. Mighty Owl has gone back to the Inters. Okay, there's really not a lot left in his race. He's way far down the track, and Rajesh had to change the wing, and he has gone on to sort of wet tires. So yeah, the race did have a lot of twists in the last 6 or 7 laps. I expected the weather craziness to kick in much earlier, but it kicked in very late. But it was extremely intense. Like, I did not see that full wets coming in, and I was completely caught off guard when the cars were pitting for full wets. So yeah, it does seem to be a very interesting turn of events, but I think it's going to take more than that to make the result more interesting. Let's see.
Definitely, we'll need an absolute masterclass. And can I just point out, if Inder Des is
Safety
within
car in
the
this
3
lap.
seconds, safety car in this lap, but quickly coming back to my point, if Inder Des can stay within 3 seconds of even Karthik Sub, he could have a very good shot over here at the podium.
Yep, that is an amazing. That is a very insightful observation, because Inter Days really had a good strategy in mind, but the safety car really messed up the timing of it. But again, considering where he started, I'd say still he's doing a pretty good job. And if what he said is happening, I'm pretty really over the moon.
Definitely. Now we just have to wait and look at Abhi. When does he go? When can he perhaps try and get the biggest jump that he can get on Envy? Envy is right on the back of him, and he has gone now. He is struggling for grip. Envy has already caught up to Abhi, and it's not even green flags yet. So Envy realistically can't pass him. He can pass him now, and he has passed him now. Envy is in the lead of this race. He essentially did what Max Verstappen did. Everybody has been disqualified from this race.
And Abhi has
for not
reclaimed the
serving
lead
his
from
life.
Envy. Abhi broke a little too late, and he was able to reclaim the lead. And now Karthik is on the back of Envy right now, and he's going side by
And
side.
now
No, he backs out.
Very, very close racing here. Inder Des, of course, over the moon right now because these drivers are bunched up. And we can see Abhi is completely losing traction over there. He just does not have the tires with him. Karthik Sab is up into P2. Ink is following very, very closely over here. And he is not past Abhi yet. Abhi now gets another 3 seconds. That is guaranteed another position for Inder Des. And there's some wheel banking over here. Turbo Chuk has now retired from this race. And Ink has sent it down the inside. Not sure if he has damage or not. And now Inder Des has to punch in the laps of his life, the 2 laps of his life. Dark Knight is also past Abhi now. Inder Des will be following very, very close. And I keep bringing out Inder Des because he's in a very, very good position over here to get onto the podium. Although he's losing a lot of time coming through these corners. He is catching Abhi right now though. He just has to keep it clean. He has to, again, as I said, he has to put in the best times he could ever possibly put in these conditions. Make sure that he's on the top of his level right now, giving it 110%, and he could definitely end up on the podium over here. He's cleared Abhi. He'll be past Dark Knight. He'll be very careful about, where Karthik Sub is. He won't be able to end up on the podium if Ink or Envy do not get, perhaps Ink does not get a 3-second time penalty or makes a mistake. This has really come down to, how Inder Des can keep his pace and, stay consistent on this very last lap that we have entered now. Envy has pulled away a second already. Ink is following close. Ink will be guaranteed a P2 over here if he can stay within those 3 seconds of Karthik Sab. Although by the looks of it, he is losing a lot of time. And Dark Knight, if he did not have those 10 seconds, perhaps could have definitely challenged Ink for that P2 position. Although right now, by the looks of it, he won't be. So it just again comes down to Inder Des, and Inder Des is catching up by a decent amount through here. Although by the looks of it, it won't be enough if it is at this pace. I think he should catch up by at least 3 or 4 tenths, sector over here to guarantee him into that P2 or at least a podium spot over here. And we can see Dark Knight was slightly loose over there. Dark Knight is completely dumping whatever he has left in terms of ERS. And he is catching up onto Ink. So Ink is definitely not using up his ERS in any way at all. And Envy is still ahead. Mighty Owl has only just passed the DNF car of Turbo Chuk. And we can see that this has lost a lot of time, so that might not be a podium for him. Envy though, he's going through that long right-hander right now, has made no mistakes, although he could perhaps make a mistake going through these corners. These corners are of course very tricky, and he's taking the penultimate corner well. He's coming into the final corner. Envy keeps it clean. Envy is coming across the line and he wins at COTA, followed by Karthik Sub. And Ink just backed out on the last corner so that he does not get the podium position. Inder Des moves up into P4, followed by Abhi. And followed by Upbeat, and then Dark Knight, Vinay, Rajesh, and then it was Fuzzy Dunlop, who's now decent up into P5. And then Mighty Owl rounds up the top 10 finishes that we had over here. And what a race that was over here right now, Deepak.
Yeah, it had started out to be a very regular dry race, and I was thinking maybe that might have been a telemetry glitch about the wet weather, but yeah, it delivered like anything in the last 8 laps.
Yep, definitely. That was a very fun and interesting race from these drivers. And wow, okay, so the game has glitched even in the post race this thing, and we can now see the final results. Well, not really the final results, provisional results of this race. Envy wins with the fastest lap, followed by Karthik Sub, Ink, Inderdes, Fuzzy Dunlop, Upbeat, Dark Knight, Vinay, Rajesh, Mighty Owl was the last of the finishers. Then were Turbo Chuk, Mr. Raut, Uday, Saurav Pat, Alex, and ABD, who was disqualified from this race, not serving his drive-through. Very interesting race, and yep, let's quickly pull our
Right, simply why don't you get the drivers in, so we could get through our interviews.
Thank you.
That was a very interesting race from your side. You qualified P3, and perhaps we were hoping
It happened 2 times with the dry stint and once during the wet stint. So
to just stay behind those 3 seconds and let Karthik have the P2, or was it just by mere coincidence that you fell out of those 3 seconds?
what do you think? He didn't lose any position, so not purposefully. I can say if Dark Knight was streamed up.
Okay. Continue.
Okay, and I actually didn't see Ender days on my MFD or that standings or position, but I don't know what, like, I didn't see him in this thing standings, so there is no such plan.
All right, so again, congratulations. But of course, and we just flew past you as well, because he just had a lot more pace. So at any point during the dry stint, were you thinking, okay, perhaps I could get a jump on Envy during the wet race, during the wet part of the race? Sorry.
Actually, the dry part of the race was actually pretty fun. The undercut actually worked out, where I think me and Envy had a couple of laps of battling. That was fun. But I did make a big mistake going into the pit lane, where I lost a lot of time. I carried too much speed, and instead of crashing into the pit barrier, I just connected to the main straight, and I slowed down a lot, just so I don't get any penalties. But I lost out a lot there to Envy, and he overtook me quite easily, even more easily than it would have been if there was no mistake. And the wet part was anytime we got an advantage through early decision that me and Ink made. There was
on the restart, you could completely jump Mighty Owl, be at the behind of Envy, perhaps by the end of turn 1, or even going through the S's, so that at least you could pressurize him somewhat into making a mistake and perhaps spinning out or doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, with the final restart, my only worry was Abhi, because he was, I think, in front of Envy at that time, and it was kind of sketchy overtaking him, because I tried going left, going right, there was no way, and he had inters, I think, at that point, and he was struggling, and I was predicting that he would overshoot most of his corners, so I gave him a bit more room than necessary. But after that, I just wanted to push as much as I could to create that 3 seconds. I mean, there was no request from my side to create a gap or anything, but Ink did the same. We were just battling.
Right, fair enough. And congratulations for your P2 here,
Thank
Karthik.
you.
Very good work from the both of the Aston Martin boys here to get a 2 and 3 over here in COTA. Moving on to our race winner Envy, are you here with us?
Hello.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep, I can hear you, Envy. All right. So you got pole by a comfortable margin in qualifying, and even in the race, I mean, I think by the end of lap 2 or 3, you already pulled away over a second to Karthik, and your pace in the wet was just amazing as well. So just talk us through your race, Envy.
Well, I'll just say this: I'm not paying anyone to bring out the safety cars because I've been getting quite lucky with the safety cars. Not gonna lie. Uh, Apart from that, I guess there was nothing much to it. I mean, me and Karthik did have really good battles in the middle. He did a minor mistake over there. Then there was a battle with Fuzzy. Right.
Could completely jump you, and you could lose 2 positions immediately right then and there.
The thing was the first safety car towards the wet was perfect for me because I had they pitted and there was a gap of 50 seconds or so. And the second safety car was like a bit of like I didn't need that at that point. But also, yeah, pretty good race. And I did get disconnected once in the drive, thinking that I'd lose one position, but no, I lost both to Ink and Karthik. It was a nice climb up. It's nice. Good enough.
Yep, so that is it. Congratulations, Envy, on your P1. Very good racing from all 3 of you guys over here. And yeah, congratulations for all of the podium sitters for today. And again, thank you guys for watching. This was a very fun race from our point of view as well, especially towards the end, when it transitioned over into the wet and with those safety cars. That is it from Tier 21, boys. Don't forget, though, we do have ACC tomorrow at Imola at 8:30 p.m. So do make sure to tune in for that. Followed by on Sunday, we will have our Tier 22 boys racing at COTA as well. So Tier 2 will be at 2:30 p.m. IST, followed by Tier 1 at 8 p.m. IST on Sunday, of course, that is. So do make sure to subscribe to our channel, turn on the notifications, and if you're interested in racing with us or just being a part of us, so then make sure to